Muy buenas tardes, mi raza. Aquí con ustedes, la Comadre B, with another episode of Comadreando Aquí y con Café. Today is Wednesday, March the 20th, 2024. Y pues, como siempre, unos saludos to my mom. Hi, Mom. And today I would actually love to send saludos out to people who watch me in different countries. Over the weekend, I had a very rude message here on YouTube. But hey, it is the web, so we are exposed to that, and we can always expect somebody that has something to say. But I actually got a lot of love in return, so I do appreciate that. You know, the name of the show is Comadreando Aquí con Café, so it is obvious you're gonna get a mix of English and Spanish. A lot of people watch me in Mexico, en Tijuana, Baja California. Muchas gracias, un saludo. I love you guys. I just got new followers out of Canada. Hello. And out of Australia. Hello to you too. Thank you guys. I do appreciate you tapping in and checking out what this is all about. If you rather listen than watch, I am also on Spotify. You guys already know that. You can find me under Comadreando by La Comadre B. With that being said, let's get into the topic. So just in case you guys missed it, this past Monday, hace 2 días, in Fresno, a monster finally got sentenced for a crime she committed 8 years ago. All right, take this moment as a trigger. I have to obviously give that warning because the details are kind of están feas. You know how that goes. So yeah, like I was saying, the woman accused of this crime was Sandra Garcia. She is now 48 years old. So what happened is that this horrible lady with a horrible heart, what else can I say? She plotted a horrible and disgusting assault on her then ex-boyfriend's 13-year-old daughter. You heard right. 13-year-old daughter de su ex-boyfriend. Okay, well, this all took place back in February of 2016 in the city of Clovis here in California. So Sandra Garcia is dating a man from Sweden. His name's John. I believe that's how you pronounce it. John Gidstedt. That was his last name. Sandra had 2 sons from her previous engagement. John now lives here in Clovis. He has 2 daughters. One is 10 at the time. The other one is 13. They're doing the whole blended family, Brady Bunch, however you want to call it. There was a lot of issues with these girls and the girlfriend with Sandra. The girls don't like Sandra. Sandra doesn't like the girls. They're always constantly fighting, bickering. According to Sandra, at this moment, back in 2016, they had been accusing her of a bunch of stuff that supposedly she wasn't doing, and it was causing a lot of issues between her and John. So it was just a lot of freaking drama. Around this time, in February of 2016, the dad decided to dump Sandra. She said, grab your boys, ya acabamos, we're done here, te vas. Like any hurting woman that gets dumped and wants to be spiteful, that's exactly what she did. She didn't want to move back in with her mom in Madera because obviously there was a lot of people over there. I don't know their situation. I'm just going off of what I have read. Well, Sandra, being as smart as you can just imagine, she thinks up of a perfect plot that was gonna just play out wonderfully, because you know that's what happens when you think up here of something that is gonna work, right? She decided to get her sons involved, which at that time were already, you know, over 20 years old. So these are considered adult men. She had a son by the name of Mark and another son by the name of Brandon. Both of them last name Roque. She also included her primo. His name is Miguel Carredo. And with these three men, she was going to get her way and continue being with John, continue being the woman of the house, and continue living in Clovis happily ever after. So deje y les cuento lo ocurrido, guys, because, oh boy. So the date was February 16th, 2016, to be exact. The 13-year-old girl, which name has never been disclosed because obviously she was 13 years old 8 years ago when all this happened, was getting ready to go to school. Her and her younger sister, the 10-year-old, you know, get backpacks, get shoes, and, you know, brushing the teeth and everything else. She couldn't find her phone. So it was time to go. That's it. Vámonos. We're going to be late. The girls are on their way to school. The day plays out, blah, blah, blah. Her day was all right, besides the point of her not being able to find her phone. And I'm pretty sure you guys can imagine how devastating it is to not have your phone all freaking day. Well, she caught the bus as usual. The bus took her home. And right as she got off the bus door to start making her way across the street to her house, these three masked men approach her. They cover her eyes, they cover her mouth, and they throw her in a trunk of a car. As soon as that is done, they start driving, which I'm pretty sure seemed forever for a child of this age and under that circumstance, you know. They tied her, they covered her eyes and covered her mouth. They finally drove out 20 miles over, a few, you know, little city over town or whatever, which is called a Troll House. It's in like the mountains, kind of. So what these three disgusting men did to her, they beat her, they sexually assaulted her with a stick. It doesn't get into details, guys, so I wouldn't even know how to begin to explain to you, but just those two together is horrendous, disgusting, and the worst disrespect you can give any human being. And then they tied her to this tree and left her there. A 13-year-old child, which was obviously injured. Imagine the fear of still being with your eyes covered, your mouth covered, and now you're tied to a tree. Can you just imagine that? For my audience, which I know are older of age, that could be your daughter. Imagine every single thing this poor child was going through. At 13, you are a child. After a few hours of being in this situation where she's tied to this tree, she was somehow able to come loose and she began walking to get help. This child's clothes was ripped. She speaks of how beyond humiliated she was to walk around like this. She finally came to the closest house, which was 1 mile away. She asked the owner to please contact police and please help her that she had just gotten assaulted. Okay, the police came, investigators came, all that good stuff. The crime scene people, everybody was there. Pictures were taken. They took her in, checked her out, all kinds of stuff. You guys know the routine, right? That's what happened. Okay, well, after investigators, somehow they came to conclusion it wasn't just random. She must have recognized something, I don't know. But the police came to conclusion that it was her dad's ex-girlfriend, Sandra, her son, Mark, and her cousin. Okay, so now, yeah, we're getting somewhere. On February 27, 2016, they arrested all three of them. And they weren't sure who was the lead, who did what. They thought Sandra maybe was the one that, went along with this whole assault, that the guys were the main ones. They didn't know. Okay, so after investigations and sitting there and interrogating them and this and this and this and that, they release them. They freaking released all three of them because there wasn't enough evidence that proved that they were the ones that assaulted this poor little girl. How freaking frustrating and infuriating this is, right? Like I said, don't see this as just something you're watching right now. Feel it as if you are the parent or even the victim herself. Imagine how, like, the whole level of the trust you had for them, and then to know that they all did this, like you guys shared meals together on the weekends or after school. This lady was sitting there trying to like take place of your mother real quick, stepmother, whatever the deal is. You guys know how families run. How is this even possible that this woman could sit here and come up with such a horrible plan and think it would be morally okay? Like, who cares? Okay, let's continue with this story. So, a couple days later, it is now June 24th, 2016. There are arrest warrants on all three of them. Sandra, Mark, and the primo, Miguel. They go to the house where they knew Sandra was staying, and on the spot, they arrested her and her son. Now, they went to go look for the primo, for Miguel. He was nowhere to be found. At this point, how they were looking, couple days, this and that, they obviously came to the conclusion that this guy is on the run. Se peló. That's it. He's gone. Now what, right? Okay, so we're forwarding this now to 2020. Ya pasaron 4 years, right? So the investigators are still on the whole case. They have the mother and the son in jail awaiting while this whole case is still under investigation. Like I said, they're trying to track down Miguel. They want him dead or alive, pero va a salir. Finally, they receive a tip, the police, que he is in Mexico. Shocker, right? Everybody always just wants to go to Mexico. Well, the police here started working with the agencies over there, which are the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and of course the Mexican law enforcement, right? So all these freaking departments are working together because, like I said, they want Miguel. Like, they're gonna get him. They were lucky enough to find him. They tracked him down. They took leads. They took everything. Like I've said before, what good detectives do, flip every rock upside down till they find what they're looking for. Dieron con él. Turns out he was hiding out, living life in his house in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. It was August 25th, 2020, to be exact. He got a knock on the door. Dun, dun, dun. He opened it. Surprise, surprise. Let's go back to the U.S. It was the next day, August 26, 2020, that he stepped foot back here on California soil. And he was booked into jail for the case of the 13-year-old girl. All right, so the case is finally going somewhere. They get their hearing, this and that. They start trial. So it is now 2022. Pasaron 2 años. So they're just sitting in there, all of them, taking time off and probably thinking what they did wasn't the best. I mean, was all that really worth it? So there, after this beginning of the trial and everybody's testifying, blah, 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 turns out, okay, in Sandra's head, as she was venting to her cousin while she was telling him the plan. Her plan was, I want you guys to beat them, scare them so bad, rip their clothes, whatever it takes, but I want them gone. I want them to go back to Sweden. They can live with their mother over there. They can leave John alone so I can be there with him, have my house, live there without issues. There are always issues. They're always talking about me, making things up. Me and John are always fighting. With them out of the way, I can live happily ever after. Without them brats, let them be with their mom. So the primo, he's taking her side, kind of. But in between this conversation and venting, they were doing a deal. So the deal was, you, primo, help me, and I will help you with your issue. What was Miguel's issue? Okay, he was currently at this time going through a custody battle with his ex-woman over his children. So according to Sandra, si le hacía el paro, if she would do the favor for her to scare these little girls, she would put him in direct contact with a friend of hers that was a paralegal to help him sort everything out, go to court, and get custody of his children. Well, un deal es un deal, right? So Miguel, nada de tonto. He was recording all these conversations without Sandra knowing, because he was in on a deal. Like, a deal's a deal. You can't go back on your word. So if it's recorded, it happened, it was done, and it's gonna be a deal. Okay, so that was the whole motive behind her getting these girls hurt, because the initial idea was for both of these girls to both get kidnapped, both get beat up, both. I don't know if the whole sexual assault was in the plan, but obviously it happened, so it must have been an order. So, ¿qué creen que pasó, guys? The grand jury decided that Sandra's other son, Brandon, which at this time was now 25 years old, should be brought into the case, and he should be arrested as well, and they wanted to indict all four of them. Fair enough, I think he was in there too. He played a part. He was wearing freaking masks and everything else that they did. So they arrested him on the spot. Vámonos. You too. He was held right then and there. He was arrested, and his bill was at $705,000. How do they come up with this amount? Yo no sé, but that's what his bail was set at. So now we have all four of them. Mother, two sons, and the primo, all busted. What a proud moment for this family, right? So now we're skipping to October of 2023. This is when they did like the final court hearing, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they came to the whole agreement, the jury, everybody, that yeah, indeed she was very guilty, Sandra, of being the ringleader behind this horrible assault. During this court hearing, the 13-year-old girl, which obviously is now a woman, was actually present as they were, coming out with this verdict. And she was able to give her victim impact statement. And it's sad. It's very sad, and I'm glad that at least she survived. How many of these cases haven't we heard of? They're all over the place, where esta gente sin corazón, they end up killing their victim, She wanted to scare her, there she scared her, And it was a horrible thing she did for the petty purpose of just staying in a house and then with her dad. How dare she? That's all I have to say. How freaking dare she? I'm glad at least in this particular case, the father chose his children, his daughters, over this freaking monster. Imagine if they would have continued relationship and had life insurance or whatever. What would a divorce look like in court between them? Or she'd be capable of even getting rid of him for his insurance money. Honestly, think about it. All right, so Sandra tried to come back with the defense that, she didn't want life in prison because that's what they were throwing at her, because she suffers so much from schizophrenia and that she has really bad post-traumatic stress and that she would not do well in jail. The judge said, cry me a river. Yeah. You guys will have another court date set for your actual sentencing. Adios. That's it. It's done. Well, as smart as Sandra is, okay, they had court again this past Friday, which was last weekend. And she tried to tell the judge that she was firing her attorney. She said, you know what? I'm going to fire my attorney. He's been representing me, but we can't seem to bond. I can't get a relationship with this man. So I'm assuming she wanted another attorney, a better attorney, an attorney that could get her off of her life sentence, right? Pues, ándale, que le dice el judge, okay, if that's the case, he had everybody step out of the room. All the jury duty, all the people that were there watching, everybody had to step out. He turned around and told Sandra, I am not going to give you a new attorney. You cannot fire this attorney because this attorney was appointed to you for free by the court. So stop messing around and let's get on with this last court hearing that you do have right now. Everybody came in and court was to be continued for Monday to finish the sentence. That was it. So this past Monday, March the 18th, 2024, Sandra was sentenced to a lifetime in prison without the possibility of parole. Good, I'm glad. The horrors that they did to this poor little girl, yeah, they deserved it, all of it. Obviously, they were all found guilty. Now they're waiting for their actual sentences. The son, Brandon, has already been sentenced and he actually took a plea. So he's only getting 16 years in prison for being an accessory towards this whole assault. And Mark and the primo Miguel are waiting for their sentencing while they sit in jail and just hang out. This, guys, again is another example of how you guys should take your time while dating somebody. Take your time while moving somebody in. Just take your time, guys. Study these people. Learn these people, like I always tell you. Because look at these situations that happen. There is a lot of people with ugly hearts. And your children are the ones that end up paying for that kind of stuff. I'm so glad the Señor ended up choosing his children over the girl. And yeah, he said outside of court after the whole sentence and everything was done, he said, I am older now, I'm grayer now, I'm fatter now. He said, but I'm happy. He said, justice was served for my daughter. I can't ask for more. We're trying to put this behind us now and move forward with life. I agree with him. You know, as hard as all of that can be, I can only imagine. Like I said, gracias a Dios, at least they didn't murder her. She's still here and life continues. I know she'll probably need help. And I'm sure that her father will be very supportive of all that stuff. So yes, it is a horrible story. Nobody won here again. Well, Sandra did. Now she has a forever home. They can't throw her out of that one, right? So she wanted. Pero yeah, guys, that is what I have for you today. So have a very wonderful rest of your evening. Y pues ahí los miro. Los adoro, raza. Bye.